Good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of Day 4 with the man, Frank SCALISH. Day 4, number 194.
You got me.
I believe. Recorded show today. I'm currently plying my trade at the Bassmaster Open Division 2 on Kentucky Lake. Hopefully just whale roping. Gigantic smallmouth over the side of the boat, but we're back. We got a recorded show. We got a really good show for you today. We also, at the end of the show, will announce the winner of the entire set of FX Series
Pro Rogues
that came out. This has been a couple months in the making, but we had a show last month, I believe, where we said, hey, send an idea in for the show, and then we'll pick it, and the winner will get that entire set. And then the reason why it took so long, Frank, we were originally going to do a show and we are going to go through all the ideas. And then I said, have you seen how many other shows are out there now, Frank? And I said,
let's not give up the farm just yet.
Exactly. Maybe give some ideas. So we picked one, excited about that. I wrote his name down. Did we? Oh yeah.
Yeah, I have it.
I wrote his name down, but then I forgot what the show was, but I just remembered. It's a good show. So that show will air at the end of March. Next week, we have Dan Miguel from Great Lakes Finesse, some of the hottest baits on the market. He is going to be joining us talking about what you need to have from GLF in your box in 2025.
Introduce a bunch of new products that are about to come out.
Bunch of new Great Lakes Finesse products. And then we will also have all of the details, because next week is only a week away from where we will be together at the Bassmaster Classic in Fort Worth at a number of different booths, but primarily kicking things off at the Pradco Lure Net booth. Frank will be there. There will be giveaways, which we have not announced yet.
We have
to the BTL listeners that are there that want to meet Frank in person, blow V8, get a picture taken.
And if you guys have a lure that you want me to sign for you, one of your personal baits, take the hooks off of
them. Great idea.
It just makes it quicker and easier.
That's a great tip. So,
yes.
Ironically, we're going to talk about something that you will not get to experience in your neck of the woods in a little bit of time, but kind of down where I am across the Southeast, where a lot of the bass fishermen are. I mean, we're in early March now, and for 98% of the diehard bass fishermen, March, you get up, your allergies are killing you, but there's, a little warmth in the air. You maybe have had a couple 50 or 60 degree nights. Some stuff is starting to bloom, and that means it is time
for the spawn
to start thinking about spawning bass. And we're going to hop into it right off with a classic Day 4 with Frank SCALISH. What did we end up titling this? We actually did some research, because we started with a number of different titles. What did we settle on, Frank?
I think we said when time is critical and you don't have a lot of time, and it's the onset of the spawning season, here's the fastest way to get success. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to show you and talk to you about how to find the best places where you could pick up several fish here and there throughout the day, insanely predictable, and have a great day with very limited time, to spend pre-fishing and looking and everything else.
Because there's nothing worse than going out. You get one day on the water. I do this in Oklahoma all the time. I've got one day, they're on the beds, and you're 4 hours later and you've seen one buck, and as soon as you cast in there, the thing swims off like it's terrified.
Correct.
And then you're like, man, I wasn't looking in the right spots today. So this is the fastest way to find predictable spawning areas, primarily on structure lakes.
Yeah, we're going to eliminate the grass lakes. Here's why. I'm going to tell you why. I'll jump into this really quick. Grass lakes, especially natural grass lakes, you can literally find dozens of spawning smallmouth and largemouth on a single flat. Structure lakes are very different than grass. So what we're doing is we're focusing on structure lakes, since most of the lakes that guys fish are more structure related than natural grass lakes. So we're going to focus on structure lakes. And here I'm going to just tell you the rundown. We're going to find spawning fish fast. I'm going to show you exact places to look for them. So when you don't have a lot of time, you could literally go boom, 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 boom. And by the time your day is over, you're going to have success. You're going to find what you need to find, and you're going to see what you need to see.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we're going to do today's show.
I love it, because we all know that the best tasting fish is a spawning largemouth.
Yes, sure. Whatever you say, Matt. Just remember, Matt said that.
That is, in today's world, that was a joke. That's 100%.
You're
joke.
right.
Practice, catch, and
that.
release here. All right, dive into it, Frank.
Okay, so the first thing we're going to do here, you know what? Let's pull the map up, and I'll go right onto the map.
Okay. We picked a random lake. We picked Watts Bar. We did it before the show. We looked at a couple different lakes. This is not this is just a random lake that you can apply to your fishery at home.
Right. So here's what I did. I picked a lake that I know is not traditionally a grass lake. And then I went to the deep dive app, and I pulled Watts Bar up, and I hit water clarity. And so as you can see by the map, it's showing us, oops, I did that again. I'm getting better at this. As you can see by the map, it's showing us the water clarity throughout the system. And you can see it's dirty where the white lines are, okay? And as we scroll through the map, all of a sudden I look in this area, and this is important because I'm doing this right away. So I look in this area, and the first thing that I noticed was this is clear. That's giving us the clearest water in the system that we can see. So now what I did was I said, okay, so we're going to look at the area. So I zoomed in on the area, and lo and behold, what I found was I found all these little tiny pockets. All these little pockets in here. And here's the reason. I'm choosing smaller pockets because they're manageable and they're easy. And here's what you have to remember. Structure lakes, you're going to find spawners. When they're spawning, you're going to find them. But they're not going to be in giant groups like they are on grass lakes. So we're looking for small areas we could cover in seconds. We could bounce from pocket to pocket to pocket. So now here's the other thing that I did, because this is why I like this app. So here's what I did. So we're going to go fishing. So now what I have to do is I have to figure out where my wind direction is, because you know that if you're sight fishing, waves and ripples on the water are going to make it almost impossible to see the fish. So I go to the wind part of it, and if you see where it's showing all the wind in these pockets especially, all the wind is blowing off the shore, off the main shoreline like this. So that means all these pockets that we're going to look at today, they're going to all be flat. They're not going to have waves rolling in on them. We're going to be able to see in the water. So that was the beauty part about this, looking at this. It gave me the ability to narrow it down literally in seconds. And with wind, watercolor. And here we are. So now I'm going to go to another thing. I'm going to go to stream flow, because what I want to see is it's going to give me a satellite imagery, and it's going to show me active streams. So because we know this area is clear, these streams aren't pumping a lot of runoff in. All right. And so now what we're doing is I was going to pull up a topo map, but this satellite image here is really good. So I'm going to use it for a second.
Okay.
And so here's what we look for when we go into these pockets. I'm going to just go to this one because it's small enough.
Yep. And it has a number of different things there. It's got a stream with some inflow. It's got some dye. It's got everything you need.
Everything. Right, so here's what I'm doing. Okay. So the first thing I do is I approach this is I'm going to have to get my pen out again, I think. So as I approach this, here's some key spawning locations. All right. You're going to find a couple in here. Now, understand this. These inside turns on the points where the green mark is, high spawning percentages, but you're not going to find a million fish there. You're only going to find a few. If you notice, there's some on the pocket right next to it. Right in here will be another good area where they spawn. Same thing over here. This dock is money right here. That's a money dock right there. Okay, so what we just did right there is I could potentially hit those 3 spots and probably pick up anywhere from 3 to 5 spawners right there. Mm-hmm. And that's just 3 bumps of the boat. Okay. Mm-hmm. So if we were to go back into this pocket, since it's a little bit longer, if we were to go back into this pocket, the reality of it is that you're going to find a spawning bass on the corner of most of these boat docks. And here you have an old gravel boat ramp that comes in the water. That's going to hold one. So the obvious spots are going to be up by all the corners of the boat docks, and they're going to hold on the poles. It's going to be your determination based on the topography of the land. Are they going to be on the poles closest to the bank, or are they going to be on the second dock pole out, or are they going to be at the end of the dock? So the flatter the dock, the chances are, like if we were to go to this one here, because it's such a flat dock, chances are that they're going to be spawning on the outside edge of this dock, where the deeper docks coming inside, they're probably going to be spawning on the inside edges of them. Mm-hmm. And so this is how you could break it down really rapidly. And it's the best thing you could do, because when you don't have a lot of time, wasting time is a problem. And so you see that was one pocket, and we gave ourselves, there's probably 15 chances in there to come up with sight fish in just that pocket.
And now you fish the back, you fished man-made vertical hard cover, you fished points out more towards the front, and then where you start seeing them, then you're just going to build your pattern around that.
Correct. And so and 100%. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to do that in all of them. So this one's a short, tiny pocket, the one I zoomed in on, which is great because you could cover this one in a second. You're going to hit, obviously, the 2 green areas that I showed you, and then back in here. Real quick, you go in, you get it done, and you leave, and you move on to the next one. And if you see what we chose here, we have a whole entire section where we could just run these things all the way through here. And there's a lot to hit, and the water's good and clean. Now, if we were to go back out, with the dirtier water, we wouldn't have this option available to us. We couldn't see them. We would be blind fishing for them, which takes a lot longer to do. All right. And now you're not being 100% effective, because now you have to slow down and methodically cover the water. And so what this does for us right here is it gives us the ability to literally narrow it down instantly, pick a section where we could run this nonstop. Like I would run and gun through this whole section, and I can probably cover from where our dots are, where the white circle is, all the way to here in less than a half a day. So if you don't have the time to fish, look at how much area that is. You could literally cover that, and I can almost guarantee you that when they're spawning, there's a half a dozen in every one of those pockets. They're just not going to be piled together. And so by knowing the high percentage spots, what you're looking for, you could run in, look and leave, run in, look and leave. And you could duplicate this all over the lake. And especially with, go ahead.
I'll just say now, traditionally, like let's just say like zoom out further on that to see. So that you made that seem ridiculously easy, but this is a big lake with different water clarity throughout the entire lake. And what we've done is you've dissected the most protected area with the cleanest water and the most favorable contour lines.
Right. I took it so conditionally it would be in my favor. So I picked that spot only because of the conditions that we were encountering. We were encountering the water clarity. You could see by this map that that's the cleanest water. Now, here's something else I noticed when I was doing this. I can go all the way over here, and here's more clean water. Okay. Yeah. Back here, there's more clean water. I can zoom out and I go, oh yeah, look at that. More clean water.
So if you don't know where the clean water is in the spring and you're trying to break it down quickly, it seems like if you're just using your eyeballs and not the satellite imagery, boat driving is very helpful because it's very easy to say, oh, it's dirty up here, but you can tell that some of the stuff gets cleaner in the back.
Correct. So
you're actually saving time by not fishing and driving around looking for it if you're not able to pinpoint where it is right off the hopper.
Right. So theoretically, because they got rainfall, clearly, because look at how dirty it is upstream. Okay. So because they got rainfall, clearly, I would assume that everything back up the river's blown out, just based on experience. And so I wouldn't even venture up there. But if you notice, what sticks out like a sore thumb is that clean water right there. So that, in my opinion, if you got a ton of guys on the lake and they don't have this available to them, okay, what happens is you have to physically drive to places to check it, which is very time consuming. Seeing this now, I would have not shied away from running up there just to go into this clean water area.
So how do you check how clean the water is, Frank? Are you putting a bait in it? Are you sticking your rod tip in the water? Like, how do you determine, are you looking at it? Because I'll tell you this. So I like to determine water clarity. When I come off pad, I'll come off pad a little bit hot. I will look behind the boat and I will see how
deep you could see your bubbles.
How deep I can see the bubbles and how I can see through the water that goes whoosh and that's how I determine the clarity for me. Obviously, then you can stand up and pitch. You can tell if it's clean or if it's not clean. But what's your way to determine? Is that how you do it as well?
Yeah, I mean, I look at the lake when I'm running to, and when I'm looking for clean water areas and I'm running my boat, I'm not running at Mach 10.
Okay.
I'm up on plane. I'm probably 35, 40 miles an hour. I'm up on plane and I will sit on the back of my seat and I'll look over the side of the boat and see it. There's a lot of instances where I fished where you see the mud line. There'll be a definitive mud line coming through the system, especially in reservoirs. There'll be a definitive mud line that's coming through the system. And so I'll see where that mud line is, and then I won't fish into the mud line. I'll fish above the mud line. So I'm in the cleaner water. But in a lot of river systems, as you can see on the map, it flows the way the current flows. So the water's actually flowing, the water's actually flowing towards the dam. And so you could assume that it's blown out up the river. If you launch your boat and especially if it's a lake you fish a lot, you launch your boat and you're like, oh my gosh, I got no visibility here. or very little,
Mm-hmm.
then it's time to start working your way towards the dam. If you have no technology available to you except for a depth finder, the most stable part of the reservoir is going to be near the dam. The most unstable part is going to be up the river, especially if you have a weather episode.
Mm-hmm.
So you could pretty much break the lake into 3 sections: upriver, midsection, the dam area. Knowing that the midsection is probably going to be marginal water, the farther up the river you go, the muddier it's going to get if you've had a lot of weather, a lot of rain. And the dam section is the last to be affected, and it's the most stable. So if you have no technology available other than a 2D locator, the first thing I'm doing if I know I've had weather is I'm going to the dam area. And that's where I'm going to start looking. Now, keep this in mind too. Depending on the depth of the reservoir, the area by the dam is usually the last to go off for spring spawning. Your midsection will be the next phase, and then up the river's the first phase because it's the shallowest. It warms the first, but that's also the most susceptible to weather.
So in theory, if you zoom out that little clear area that's the furthest upriver, right there where your squiggly line with the arrow goes over it, those fish are going to spawn sooner in that pocket than they will down where you just dissected.
Correct. They'll spawn here sooner. So chances are, if you're seeing spawners over here where we started our search, if you're seeing spawners in this area, there'll be a lot more in this area because it's at the shallower end of the reservoir.
Or if you feel like the spawning episode, as you like to call it, a spawning episode is going on and you're not seeing them in the clear water down further south, that might be a key for you to say, hey, we're going to move further up, warmer water.
100%. And so it's not, so this, it's all this show today is to just teach you how to eliminate water without going there as fast as you can.
Now, are you a big sun guy? Which direction the sun rises in the east and sets on the west, and that predicates which bank you're going to start first based on how many hours of sunlight it gets and warms?
What the sunlight to me is, I want the sun so it doesn't affect my vision in the water. So I approach my places with sun glare in mind. Once the bass are spawning, they're spawning. Once they get up there to do their thing, they're going to do their thing no matter where the sun is in the sky.
So you don't think it makes a difference like, oh, I'm going to look on east-facing banks first because they're more likely to spawn there, or west-facing banks or whatever?
Well, the west-facing, the sun rises in the east.
In the east, yeah.
So it's going to get all your early morning sun. We know that banks that are protected from the north wind also get spawning areas they get spawning behavior first. It's protected from the cold north winds. But for the most part, if a pocket or a section of the lake is going to go off, it's going to go off. I just don't want the sun affecting my vision into the water if I want to sight fish. If I'm going to blind cast for them, I don't care where the sun is at, because we already know from going back to our first spots that we picked out where the locations are going to be. Corners of the dock poles, inside swings on points, boat ramps, old boat ramps, or even new boat ramps that go in the water. New boat ramps are cool because they'll spawn on the sides of them. Old boat ramps that don't get use but that are still hard bottom, they'll spawn all over them. But the new ones, they'll use the sides of it where the gravel's piled up and the concrete was laid. They'll use the gravel on the new ones. So there's really high, predictable. And then here's another thing that you need to remember. Anytime Oh, I wish I had my whiteboard up here, but I don't. So bass will spawn by an object. Very rarely do they just spawn in the middle of nowhere. If there's a brick in the water, even a bucket, I've seen them spawning on buckets that are sunk in the water. They'll be spawning next to a bucket. For some reason, they like some form of cover by their spawning bed. And so that's another good sign that you can use, when you're cruising around and you're looking. You'll see any object in the water. A tree branch, I've seen them where branches hang over the water, never even touch the water, and they spawn right underneath the overhanging
they're the
branch.
biggest pains in the ass. I can think of like 2 or 3 specifically where you're like, how does that bass know that I cannot put my bait in the bed? Like, how does that, like, it's like the bass picked it because it knows that you can't cast under there.
Yeah,
it's very tough to cast under there.
It is, and the brutal part about that is, that when you see a bed, okay, there's going to be a spot the size of a quarter or a 50-cent piece that makes them trigger. And with all the branches that are over the thing, you may never be able to get your bait to where that bass could react to it. And that's the frustrating part about that whole fiasco. I'll tell you what, we were on Clear Lake in the Delta, and and a couple things happened to me in that tournament. I never saw bass that big in my entire life. So the first couple that I spotted, because they were in the process of getting ready to spawn, and there were some bass spawning.
Mm-hmm.
And in the process, I did exactly what we talked about here. I picked a section of the lake where I thought I could cover the most and have the most opportunity to find sight fish, but I wanted to stay near a structure because that the pre-spawn bite, that near shore structure, is critical. And so I didn't want to eliminate both possibilities on a lake I never saw up until the day I got there. And so I found this section, and I was blowing by these docks, and I saw a giant fish that I thought was a carp. I took a double take on it, and I kept on trucking past the dock. Well, I came to an area that had a little high spot on it, and so I was throwing a shaky worm. I was throwing an 8-inch shaky worm, and I pitched it up on the gravel spot. As soon as it hit the bottom, the line started peeling away. I leaned in on the fish. I caught it. It was a 5-pounder. I'm like, sweet. I let it go, and then I crept around the area on trolling motor real slow to see if I could see any spawners.
Mm-hmm.
I turned around because the dock where I saw the big carp on was close by, and there was a little deep trench that kind of ran in there. I turned around, I followed in there. I spotted that carp, and it was a bass. And I'm like, oh, good God, that thing's got to be 13 pounds. I never saw a bass that big. So when I spotted that fish, I started slowing down, and I started looking for more fish on the bed. Of course, I GPSed it, and I was moving on my way, and there was, it wasn't a refrigerator, but it was some type of an appliance that was in the water, and it was rusted out, and it was really close to the surface of the water. If you weren't paying attention, you would have plowed right into it. And there was another one on it, as big as that one. And I'm like, oh my God. I put that in the GPS. I found 3 of them.
So 26 pounds and 2 fish.
Yeah, seriously. But I found 3 of them. So I had potentially 30 pounds and 3 bites. Okay. So I said, okay, I'm going to spend more time here. So I went around the corner. There was another pocket with a bunch of little, shallow like pockets in them with boat docks everywhere. Well, this set of boat docks had like 18 feet of water off the front of these boat docks. So I started randomly chucking that 8-inch worm on the shaky head in front of the boat docks, and I could literally go through there and catch 20 pounds in like 5 minutes. It was a piece of cake. So I was freaking out because I found these big fish. So anyway, here's where the story's going. It's about not being able to make the cast when you need to make the cast. So morning of the tournament rolls around. I run out real quick and I catch a quick 15 pounds. And I had it in like 5 casts. And my non-boater had equal in 5 casts. We literally made 5 casts apiece, and we both got limits, and we're both in, in the 15, 16 pound category. So I'm like, we're bailing, got to go. I got a big giant one. I got to go catch it. And I got 2 more to go catch. I run to that big fish and I'm looking for it. And I can just see the nose of it sticking out of the corner of the dock pole. Just the nose of it sticking out of the corner of the dock pole. It's the far back dock pole. It's got 2 dock poles in front of it, a small platform that comes out with so I've got about 8 or 9 dock poles that I somehow got to get underneath it and get to the back one because I can't get behind it to fish for them. I cannot get behind it to fish for them. So I cast and I cast. I can't make the cast. I get my big 1/2 ounce jig out. I skip the jig under there. I can't get it. I change angles. So finally, I get an angle on the fish and I grab that 8-inch shaky worm because it would not react to the jig. And I skip that worm up underneath there and it spirals down and it lands right on the corner of the bed. And I lose the fish. I can't see it. That thing comes out and noses that bait. And I can only see about that much of his face. He noses in on the bait. My line tightens up and I lean on him. I got it. It goes underneath the dock, all through all the dock poles. I have 8-pound test line on. I'm not landing it. Well, I just hold it there. I don't try to seesaw him. I hold it there. My non-boater was a local, and he's freaking the hell out. He's like, that's the biggest bass I've ever seen. And so it swims out around one of the dock poles. It swims out around the other dock pole. It swims out around all the dock poles, and I'm locked on him in open water, fighting him in the wide open water. I'm like, I got him. I got her. She's not going anywhere. This fish is mine. And I get it close to the boat and my heart starts pounding because it's literally like I have a carp on. And so sure than crap, it starts taking off and I'm back reeling it. It's taking drag. I don't know how bad my line is because it was around all these dock poles.
Right.
It goes right back under the damn dock and goes right back to her bed. And I'm doing the same thing. I'm pulling, she's pulling, I'm pulling. Bink, break her off. Yes. That was the end of it. So I go, I got 2 more like this. We got to go get. And I'm shaking because I've never seen bass this big. My non-boater goes, Frankie, I live here. That fish was 15 pounds if it was an ounce. And I said, I couldn't tell you how big it was after 8 pounds, bro, because I ain't never seen one like that. I go to my next fish and Kevin Worth is on it. I'm like, oh my God, Worth found that fish. So I slide up to Kevin. I go, did you catch her? He goes, which one? And I go, you got the other one? He goes, I got the other one. I go, how big was it? He goes, 11 pounds. I'm like, oh my God. I go, how about the one you're working on? He goes, I had her on once. I broke her off. She went back. I can't get her to eat yet, but it's over. It's bigger than that other one. And I'm like, oh,
now you're 0 for 3. Yeah. And he came in with 27 that day.
Yeah. Yeah. He caught
11.
He caught that one. And I was like, you got to be kidding me, bro. And he goes, no, man. And so here I come in with 20 pounds and dude, 20 pounds. And I didn't even sniff money. Like I was okay. I'm like, oh, 20 pounds. I'll be in the mix. And guys are grabbing like 5 bags. And I'm like, why is everybody grabbing 5 bags? And they're like, because every fish over, I think it was 10 pounds you had to have a bag for.
No, every fish over 6, I think in California, they weigh in a separate bag.
Whatever it was, you had to have a separate bag for it. And I'm like, what the hell? And then I go to the, the dink board, and I don't have a dink, dude. I got 20 pounds. And the guy goes, if you don't have at least 35 pounds, you're not going to get 2 seconds on stage. I go, you got to be kidding me. He goes, no. I said, oh my God.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. You had 2 good days.
Yeah, I'm like, what lake was I on, man? I wasn't even on the same planet as these guys.
So you're one. You had it hooked to be on the same planet.
Oh yeah, 100%. But I wasn't even on the same planet. And here I never saw that lake a day in my life except for the 2.5 practice days. And so I use this technique of picking a section of the lake that I can manage and that I could cover well. And here's the funny place where Steve Kennedy won the thing. I pulled in there on the first day because up north, the bass will do the same thing on the Great Lakes in marina mouths. They'll pile in by the thousands in these big marinas off the Great Lakes. And I knew that. And when I went down there, the first day and I saw nothing, not a single bass up there. And literally the next day there was 500 of them waiting to get in. And so, in my rush, I never went back there to double check that, even though I know it's a viable pattern. But in hindsight, I'm glad I didn't, because everybody was in there just throwing at the same spot. So I would have never survived that.
You know what I love about bass fishing, Frank? So you're telling that story, and I can tell you're not just telling that story. You're reliving that story.
Oh yeah,
every little detail. Like as you were telling that story, I could picture you picturing that fish. That was almost 18 years ago to the day.
Oh yeah, 100%.
18 years later, and it's still seared,
dude. Because I've never seen anything like that in my life. I have never seen bass that big alive in a lake in my entire life.
Yeah, I mean, I caught an 11.4 out of Arbuckle 10 years ago, and I vividly remember when I saw it, I thought that it was like a 13 or 14 pounder. Like, I mean, I had no concept of it, right? And then when I hooked it, I stepped back on my rods, broke 3 rods with my foot, was so discombobulated that I dropped the net in the water, so it sank to the bottom. So by the time I got the fish in, I was -3 rods and a net, and I didn't care.
Oh, yeah. No, you don't care. Are you kidding
There's
me?
nothing like that first, you'd say what you want about fish and spawn a fish. There's nothing like that first feeling. As long as you take care of the fish and you do everything right, that fish goes right back and spawns. You can do all the research and things on it. I love sight fishing. I wish I was better at it. I wish I was able to do it more. This was I was traveling. We just haven't had one that like kind of lined up right. But there's nothing like that first. I'm not a hunter, Frank, but I would imagine it's the first. It's the same feeling when you spot one that you're like, oh my gosh, is when, the buck of a lifetime, comes up and you get that first look at it and you know that you're going to get a shot at it. And there's 2 options. It's either going to be a story that you just told or it's going to be the biggest, the biggest fish of your life.
Oh yeah. 100%. I start shaking so bad. Like when I sight fish, I hated it. And I avoided it at all costs. And my first season on the Pro Tour, I realized that if I avoid it, I can't win. I have no chance to win. When it's happening, you can't avoid it. So I started sight fishing on purpose to be really good at it. Man, that lake.
You said, I wrote down some keywords here. And I think, we opened the show with the fastest way to find spawners. We use Watts Bar as an example. You can do the same thing. We were able to look at it from satellite imagery, from wind, from all that to really break it down and say, hey, these are some high percentage areas. But there are some keywords. And I think regardless of whether you're on 1,000-acre fishery or a fishery like Watts Bar or whatever, as long as, primarily non-grass, like you said, a structure lake.
Grass lakes will behave slightly different.
So the keys to me are, well, we didn't even talk about water temp. That's a whole different show. But water, it's just when they get up there, when they start getting up there.
Yeah, yeah.
The keywords to me: water clarity. That's one, right?
Yep.
Wind and protection from the wind, consistent protection from the wind. Inflow.
Correct.
Like, is that going to get dirty? Is it going to be stable? Like, what type of water is coming into that? Because those fish don't want to get blown out, and then you can't find them even if they are. Research. You didn't say the word research, but by the way we're looking at that and you're knocking it down, you're saying, hey, look, you can tell this is where it is, where you see it. And then the one thing you mentioned but we haven't looked at is the topography, mapping, contour lines, things like that. Like, those are the 5 things that if you pay attention to those, you're on the fast track to finding the fastest spawners on your fishery.
Yeah, and the reason I didn't pull the topo map up is because the image,
satellite.
Yeah, the image on the satellite was clean enough for you to see the sandbars, the gravel bars, and the inside turns on the points. Otherwise, I would have just looked on my topo map and looked for them on the map. It's pretty easy to do, but we didn't have to because that satellite image was so good. But it would give you, the topo map would give me the same thing, except not quite the detail. Because the topo map would not have showed me that old boat ramp that we saw first podcast.
Day 4, number 111 that we did last year dives a little bit deeper into this as far as offerings, boats set up. You had some good drawings on that show, so if you want to go back, you can find that on YouTube. And it's another hour that takes some of the things that you talked about today and then applies them. And then there's also BTL Day 4, number 65, talks about baits, offering lures. You actually did a whole show on fishing prop baits during the spawn.
God, yeah, man.
That goes back like that. You've done, Day 4, 110 is, when they get up shallow and there's fluctuating water, all sorts of different things on it. But this is like a really good overview that kind of combines all those things. So when those detailed things come into play, you're in the right areas.
Yeah, the crazy thing is, like, literally as fast as we broke this down in today's show, before we went live, we literally did this in 4 minutes.
Well, you did. I didn't.
I mean, literally. All I did was I had to pick, because here, look, okay, so I'll tell you how this worked. I just picked the section of the country that I knew was getting rain.
Yep.
And pulled a map of a lake that was not a grass lake. And that was Watts, and it was the first one I pulled up. And the mud flow on it was great. And the pockets of clear water were perfect. So I said, we'll use this map. So you could do it to any lake, anywhere. And if you don't have an up-to-date satellite image like the Deep Dive app, for example, you could just literally say we're going to stay closer to the dam if you know it. And that's why I talked about this 3 sections of the lake. And you could use your boat to go physically look. And our boats are quick enough now where you could cover an awful lot of water if you're not wasting time. So, there's a million ways to do it, but I just thought it would be really interesting if you're limited on time, to really show you guys how to really cut through the crap as fast as you can. And you'll find that it's very effective. It's like stupidly effective.
I love it. That was good stuff. You know what I ran across randomly while I was looking for other spawning shows to show people? BTL Bass Talk Live Day 4 with Frank Scalish, number 1.
What?
Yeah.
Holy crap. What the hell did we talk about on the first show? I don't even remember.
We'll
Number 1.
find out here. 1 second. Also,
it had to be something smallmouth related because we probably came in close to one of
Alabama rigs.
Oh yeah, the mighty A rig. Perfect.
We'll see. We've got audio on here, so we'll see if it. Oh, shocker! Wow, thanks, Jeffries.
Yes.
My God, I apologize for those iTunes listeners. Morning, everybody. Holy cow! What are we doing? Listen to this start.
Day number to BTL. Day number 4 with our friend Frank Scalish. Frank, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. How you guys doing?
Doing great, Matt. You all right in Tulsa? Everything okay, man?
Yeah, everything's phenomenal. These are probably going to be the most educational series of BTLs that we've ever had.
I think you're right. Absolutely. Now, before we get
back and listening to Frank,
high expectations. I love it.
That's right. All right. Now, before we get into the fishing stuff,
God, he's so aggressive.
The task at hand is, Frank. The Browns are in the playoffs.
Oh God, yeah, this was a long time ago.
But they don't have a coach.
We don't have a coach. We're out a couple of players.
All right, let's
to
charge what, $350 to.
I got to tell this story. I'm embarrassed actually, but I'm gonna.
Anyway, there you go.
That's cool. Show number 1.
We'll have to go back and maybe dive into that when we hit 200 here in a month.
Yeah, the best and the worst.
All right, we got some more business to take. More business at hand before we wrap things up. One of the cool things that LureNet has done a lot of is this Bank and Creek kit.
Correct.
And well, because you work for them and paint for them, they happen to send you the March kit.
Yeah. So these the Bank and Creek kits are basically designed for the guy who walks the beat, so to speak, the guy who pond hops, river fishes, et cetera, et cetera. And so I don't really talk about them or promote them all that much on day 4 because we're talking a lot about, anglers on the water, basically.
Mm-hmm.
But they sent me this thing. So I'm like, well, let me look at it. And I'm only telling you this because there's something really cool that I didn't know was happening exactly until Friday. Yeah, I found out Friday. So, or actually not Friday. I found out last week. And so, because I forgot where we recorded this show. So here's what happened. So I get it and I look at it and as always, I'm a curious fisherman. So I got some Great Lakes finesses in here. I thought, okay, that's cool. New colors, that's good. Some pulse minnows,
pulse minnows.
Good. And then I come across this bag of 4-inch yum dingers. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, okay, yeah, I get it, man. You're
obsessed with those things for like a whole 6-month period of shows. Remember we did like 9 dinger shows on the different glimmers and shadows and shapes and laminates.
Right. It was stupid. So I get this thing and I don't pay much of attention to it. I'm like, okay, yeah, 4-inch dingers, cool. Pond guy, wacky rig, split shot rig. Yeah, you're in. You're going to catch 1 million of them, right? So I look at this thing. And I go, I never heard of that color before. They call it natural bass. What the hell's natural bass? So I'm looking at them, and it's a cool color. I had to put my glasses on because I can't read the microscopic crap there.
Natural bass.
Of course, I could have done that and read it. So now I could see I could do that. Mm-hmm. So anyhow, the long and short of it is, it was a cool color, and it's a special color just for that bag.
Cool. So that's only available in the Bank and Creek kits.
Yeah, but bear with me. With me.
I'm bearing.
So it's available in the Bank and Creek bag. Okay. So I'm like, okay, cool. What else we got? I go in here and I'm like, what the hell is this color? Never heard of it before. It's called Midnight Orchid. Okay. So I'm like, oh, yeah, that's cool. Let me check it out. So I'm looking at it. Obviously, I didn't open the bag. I just looked at it through the bag. So This is so crazy. So I go, that's really kind of a cool color. And so I'm looking at it.
It's like a grape
it's like a
blue.
black grape with a dirty blue glimmer belly.
Oh, that's a really cool color.
Yeah, I'm like, wait a second. That's a color. That's a color that I want. Okay, so I'm in here and I'm going, okay, so we got natural bass and we got this orchid color. So I call right away. I'm like, hey, I want them colors. Do we have those colors? Well, yeah, they're in the Bank and Creek bag, in the bait school bag. I go, yeah, but can I get the colors? And they go, yeah, you can get them. I go, what are you talking about? I thought it was just for the bag. Well, no. If you go on lurenet.com and you go into the Bank and Creek, they sell them separately. So if you like,
if you don't want the centipede or the little bitty buzzbait or whatever, but you want 5 packs of the black orchid,
right, 100%. So
that's a little hack. That's pretty cool.
I didn't even know it, but I mean, they got like all the little, pond magic spinner baits, and they got drop shot weights, bullet weights, hooks, eagle claw, laser sharp.
You got the the way, like when we're recording this, Frank, like I don't have access to your March Bank and Creek kit. I'm still looking at the February one, but they do have a dinger on there, an Amber Night.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one. And of course,
you get a little sticker.
Yeah, cool. That's a kind of a cool logo, actually. Yeah. And there's a GLF sticker which you won't be able to read because it's a Windows sticker, and you got to take it out to read it. But you know what I'm saying. But listen. The only reason I'm diving in this thing, to be honest with you,
Bank and Creek,
is because I didn't know you could get this. I didn't know you could get your hands on the. I didn't know you could get your hands on the colors.
Very nice. Here's this Amber Night. No, be able to probably buy it by the time.
Oh shit!
The show
that
airs,
looks a lot like dirt purple.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, that's not bad.
It's a good looking dinger, Frank.
Yeah, that's not bad. That's natural, man. But yeah, so I said I'm going to talk about this because I didn't know. So you learn something new every day.
Yeah, I didn't either, and there's all sorts of unique stuff in there. I feel like this would be a good time to let people know that should they be interested in any of these one-offs or an entire Bank and Creek kit for a guest or for themselves. Capital BTL 25 to get 15% off your regularly priced items only exclusively at LureNet. Wait, I'm not done. Because if you order, what happens if you order using the code BTL25, Frank?
You are in the ring for a $50 gift card.
And how often are we giving those out?
Every 2 weeks.
And how does that work?
So every 2 weeks, everybody who uses the BTL25 code
on lurenet.com.
Lurenet.com, it'll be a random pick. The computer will pick something. It's not predicated on the amount of the purchase. It's not predicated on how often you buy something. It's just whoever uses that code, their names are in the mix. Yes.
And then we'll get credited for $50.
Yes. You will be selected. Then one of us will reach out to you, or LureNet directly will reach out to you with a.
Leave me out of this. Have LureNet do it.
Yeah, they are. They are. You're not involved in this, Matt. You're an integral part of this, but you won't have to do any of the reaching out. LureNet will pick the code, respond. You get the code. It's worth 50 beans.
All right. Let's get to the other giveaway then. Or it's not a giveaway. It kind of earned it. So we had to rifle through over 100 show suggestions.
And thanks, by the way, for that.
Yeah, fantastic. And if you're a BTL listener who sent one in, there's a good chance that in the future you may be like, hey, that's a show that I suggested. But if you suggested it, means you wanted it, which is good. This was when we went through all of them, I tried to break them down into categories and all this. I
You did.
If there was a duplicate of it, this was the first one that we saw that was with it when we went, oh yeah, that's a great show. So that's how we're going with the winner.
Correct. That is correct.
A complete set while I'm over here on LureNet. Those things are available, right?
Yeah, the Pro Rogue.
Yeah.
In the FX colors. Complete set of Pro Rogues in the FX colors.
So all of them. The
whole set.
Blue Violet, the Northern Light, the Oil Blue, Oil Green, Violet Cream, and Violet Chartreuse.
Correct.
To the doorstep of winner. Do you want to say his name or do you want me to?
I can do it. Matthew Brazic is the winner
of the entire set of XX series.
The entire set.
I actually have his email, so I don't have to wait. So I will reach out, and once I get his contact information, we'll send him that set. And the show title, the show suggestion, I thought was a really unique one. Yeah, we like to dabble a little bit off the beaten path.
Yeah, let's not let the cat out of the bag on this one.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, because we've got Dan Miguel next week, Great Lakes Finesse, new stuff coming out. Then the following week, we're at the Bassmaster Classic. Then this show, which is a great time of the year for the topic that we're talking about, will air on March 27th.
Yes, and it'll be this is going to be cool. It was a good show idea. I liked it because it was, I don't want to say I was out of the ordinary, but it was a show that I actually never thought about doing. And so
neither did I. I think that's why it was so cool.
Yeah. So Matthew, you're the winner, bud. As soon as you email me, Matthew,
he doesn't have to email. I email him to get his contact info because I got his email because he emailed in. They could either do it through the YouTube comments or through an email at matt@basson.com.
Perfect. So you get his address. I've already got him boxed up and ready to roll.
Mm-hmm. I think we're dialed in on the new tech, Frank. Between the satellites and Contour Master stuff, like we've been doing this 4 years now, obviously, because that's when day 4, number 1 came out.
Number 1 came out.
Prior to the recording of this show, most frustrated I've been, tech-wise, just getting like not on how to use the tech, but on how to get the screen up that you wanted to put on the show, and then how to change screens in between. You know, I timed it because we filmed an hour late. Do you know how long we did that for?
I have no idea.
1 hour and 3 minutes before we got it dialed in on the StreamYard with the screen mirroring and all that. Oh yeah.
Well, here's the crazy. It
was badass. I loved it. It was worth every second because we actually found some new stuff.
Right, but here's the crazy thing. So there's something that we're working on that we practiced it and we did it like that. It happened like that, where we could literally go back and forth, pulling the topo map.
I have no idea how we did that before. I'm not doing it today. I'm over it.
No, today. We're done. No, we're not doing. I'm not doing it either. But what was happening was it was good because I had the ability on my end to work on this stuff, and then Matt could show it to you guys while I was working on it, and we were pulling 3 different things up at the same time, and for some flipping reason, I can't get it to go anymore. And so I'm just like, all right, so deep breath. We're good.
We got through it. I loved it. That was a good show. Hopefully, God, I'm glad we're talking about spring and warm and stuff. It seems like we just keep getting smoked with cold fronts.
Oh, I know, dude.
Like right now, I'm so bundled up on Kentucky Lake. Like takeoff on Thursday morning, which is today, a week in advance, 29 degrees. Back end of a massive cold front. I'm just ready to throw the shorts and flip-flops on and maybe like a hoodie and roll out and just be like, ooh, it's a little nippy this morning. Wish I put some pants on, and then you're good by 8 a.m.
You should fish with pants, dude. I'm just telling you.
No, I know.
I had a guy. I had a buddy of mine. We're on the Ohio River, and we were young, and it was my buddy Bobby, Dale, and myself, and I forget if we were fishing Redman or one of the local trails. I forget what trail it was, and we were all practicing on the Ohio River, and everybody's boats. We had pretty fast boats, and so there were times when you get kind of, I don't know, not bored. You're never bored fishing, but we were young, and so we would just decide that we were all going to go right next to each other and run 75 miles an hour each, be next to each other, and thumbs up. You could almost touch the guy next to you. Yeah, dude, rock on, right? So anyhow, so I'm fishing. And I come ripping around this corner, and on the river, you could cut the corners to shave the times off your run because the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, blah, blah, blah. So I'm cutting this corner, and I see this dude in a Gambler bass boat fishing in his underwear. I'm like, what?
What is going on here?
What is going on? And I know it's my buddy. Okay, I know 100,000% it's my buddy because I recognize the boat. So I keep on trucking. I'm laughing my brains out because literally that's all he had on. And so I'm laughing and I'm fishing, and I hook up with my other buddy Dale up the river a little bit. I go, dude, I just seen Bobby. He's like naked fishing out of his boat. He goes, yeah, he does that. He goes, when it gets warm out, he'll do that. I go, oh my God. It's like, holy crap. When you're young, you do stupid stuff.
All right. Well, on that note.
Yeah, what a great topic to end the show on. Hey, all we're doing is just talking. That's all we're doing. We're just talking, man.
You were teaching today. It was a big teaching day today.
True. But we
good show
talked
today.
At the end. Yeah, it was fun.
Absolutely. All right. We'll be back live.
I hope you're catching the crap out of them, man.
I have a sneaking suspicion it might be a bit of a tough bite. But we'll find out when we get down there. All right. This has been another edition of Day 4 with the man Frank Scalish. We'll be back live next Thursday, March 13th, 8:30 a.m. Central Time with Dan Miguel from Great Lakes Finesse. Always a great guest, always very educational, and your first look at some of the new things coming down the pipe for GLF.
Yeah, and I'm going to
2025.
I'll be honest with you. One of the new things has me really, really intrigued.
Loaded to the cork.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I won't let the cat out of the bag, but man, I'm interested in something.
I always wondered if cat lovers and owners such as yourself were offended with phrases like "let the cat out of the bag."
No, I'm more
like offended. If you're a cat lover, you're not like, well, why was the cat in the bag to start with? Like the cat should never have been in the bag.
Well, I'm not even going to say what I was going to say. We'll let PETA breathing down our backs.
All right, we need to end the show immediately. I'll see you next week. I'll see you next week, Frank.